Story 1: Emily's Tale, The Watcher by the Trash Bins. My name's Emily, and I live in a rotting apartment building in Stillwater, where the fog clings to everything, making the courtyard feel like a dream you can't escape. The trash bins out back reek of seaweed and something sour, like the harbor's breath. System. Breath. I take a deep breath, trying to shake off the unease that's been gnawing at me since I first saw him. The courtyard feels wrong, like the fog is watching, curling thicker around the bins. I toss my garbage and hurry back inside, the sound of dripping water, soft, relentless, following me up the stairs. The next few nights, he's there every time I go out. Sometimes a cigarette glows in his hand, casting shadows that twist unnaturally, too long for his frame. Other times, his hands are buried in his pockets, but his eyes never leave me, sharp and unyielding. The courtyard feels liminal, like a place caught between worlds, where the rules of reality don't apply. No one else seems to care. I ask my neighbor Tom about the man. He mutters something about a drifter scavenging recyclables, but his voice shakes, and he won't meet my gaze. One evening, he speaks. "Need help with those bags?" His voice is low, like it's rising from the harbor's depths. I stammer, "No thanks," and flee inside, my pulse hammering. The dripping sound is louder now, echoing in my ears. I stop going to the bins at night, dragging my trash out at dawn when the fog is thinner. But Stillwater's curse doesn't let go. One night, my intercom screeches at 2 a.m., a shrill wail cutting through the silence. I freeze, straining to hear voices, but there's only the drip, drip, drip seeping through the walls. I don't answer. Morning comes and I find my trash bag on my doormat, ripped open. Mixed with my scraps are things that shouldn't be there. A toothbrush with yellowed bristles, a knot of dark hair, and a spoon charred black, like it was kissed by fire. My stomach lurches. Someone rummaged through my garbage, added these tokens, and left them for me. I clean it up, hands trembling, but the dripping follows me, a constant reminder of the errandor's reach. Days later, another bag appears at night. I hear a thud, peek through the peephole, and glimpse a shadow slinking away, swallowed by the fog. Inside, a broken comb, a stained sock, and a rusted nail, sharp enough to pierce skin. Each item feels like a piece of a puzzle I can't solve. I call the building manager, but his voice is distant, like he's heard too many of Stillwater's ghost stories. Now I avoid the courtyard entirely. I drive my trash to a dumpster across town, but I feel his eyes in every shadow. A neighbor mentioned someone buzzing intercoms at night, silent and persistent. I check my locks obsessively, but the dripping grows louder, invading my dreams. Is he human or something the errandor sent through the fog? I'm terrified that one night I'll open my door and find him there, holding another bag, filled with fragments of my soul. Story 2: Michael's Tale, The Blade in the Drawer. I'm Michael, and I work in a cramped office in Stillwater, where the fog presses against the windows, and the fluorescent lights hum like they're alive. My desk sits next to Matthew's, a guy who's all sharp edges and silence, his eyes hidden behind his monitor. One night, we both stayed late. I was scrambling to finish a report, and to cut the tension, I made a dumb joke about his meticulous file sorting. He looked up, his gaze like a blade, and gave a smile that didn't touch his eyes. The air grew heavy, and I heard it, a faint drip, 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 like water leaking from nowhere. The next morning, I opened my desk drawer and stopped cold. A razor blade gleamed on my papers, placed with surgical precision. No note, no hint of how it got there. I glanced at Matthew, typing calmly, but his stillness felt staged, like he was waiting for me to crack. I locked the blade away, my mind spinning. A prank? A threat? I couldn't ask without looking unhinged. Days later, I left work late, the fog swallowing the parking lot. My car door had a deep scratch, carved with something sharp. No other cars were touched. My thoughts flashed to the blade, to Matthew's smile. The dripping sound returned, pulsing in my chest. I started watching Matthew, his every move calculated, his glances heavy with intent. Once, grabbing papers from the printer, I saw a list on his desk. Names, dates, mine circled in red. No explanation, just my name, marked like a curse. The office became a cage. The dripping grew louder when I was alone, echoing from the ceiling, the walls. One evening, I had to stay late again, and Matthew was there, his presence a weight in the silence. He approached, asking about a file, his voice flat but his eyes probing. I answered curtly, avoiding his stare. When he left, he paused at the door, that same hollow smile flickering. The dripping roared as I checked my car. No new scratches, but the relief was a lie. Yesterday, I opened my drawer, and my papers were shifted, like someone had rifled through them. Matthew sat at his desk, back to me. But I felt his awareness, like he knew I'd seen it. I'm trapped in this fog-choked town, wondering if Matthew's playing games, or if the Arendor's curse is using him to hunt me. The dripping follows me home, and I check my locks twice, dreading the day I find another blade, or something worse, waiting in the mist. Story 3. David's Tale, The Uninvited Guest. I'm David, and I live in a small house on Stillwater's outskirts, where the fog rolls in like a tide, and the sound of dripping water never stops. My older brother Paul runs with a rough crowd, but we're tight. A few weeks ago, he showed up with a guy named Ethan, who was too smooth, too watchful. Ethan scanned my living room like he was cataloging it, his fingers grazing the furniture with eerie care. Over dinner, he barely ate, just listened, his smile cold and precise. Paul was his usual self, laughing, drinking, but the dripping started, faint but sharp, like a warning from the harbor. They left after an hour, Ethan saying he hoped to see me again. I shrugged it off, but days later, I found my windows cracked open, though I'd locked them tight. I called Paul, but he was out of town for work. Then one evening, I came home and froze. Ethan was on my couch, calm as death, holding one of my kitchen knives. He smiled, saying the door was unlocked, and he thought I'd want company. The dripping was deafening, flooding my skull. I asked about the knife. He claimed he'd been cutting vegetables with Paul earlier, but Paul had been gone for days. His story frayed. Vague talk of meeting Paul at a bar, no substance, just that unnerving smile. I told him to drop the knife. He did, slowly, then suggested we talk. I checked the door, half closed, like it had been forced. My skin crawled if he wandered my house, touching books, glancing at Paul's room like he'd been there before. I pressed him about Paul, desperate. He said Paul was with a friend and might not return soon. His tone was too light, like he was hiding a truth. I demanded he leave. He handed me the knife, his touch lingering, and walked out, the dripping fading with him. I locked the door, heart racing, and called Paul. He sounded off, evasive, calling Ethan harmless, but dodging why he'd given him access to my house. Last night, I found Paul's room trashed, drawers yanked open, clothes strewn about. Paul's back now, gaunt and jittery, but he won't talk about Ethan. The dripping is constant, and I'm certain Ethan's not finished. I keep the knife close, but I don't know if I'm guarding against him
or whatever the errand door woke in Stillwater's fog.